Welcome back to our study of the way of the Bodhisattva. Today we are on verse 16. As corresponding to the wish to go and then to setting out, the wise should understand respectively the difference that divides these two. So, as I mentioned last time, this is the difference between just having the aspiration and actually engaged bodhicitta, right? So we have to actually start to work with this as a path. That means we're engaging in the activities of the six paramitas. That means that we're actually producing merit in an unceasing way because we have committed to this, right? One is just kind of like a notion that we hold in our minds, and he says that this produces merit, but it's not the same as when it dictates your activities. That's when the vow really starts to change you on a deep level. That's why some traditions actually say that the vow is what makes bodhicitta an action, because you're committing to the path. Verse 17, from bodhicitta and intention, great results arise for those still turning in the wheel of life, yet merit does not rise from it in ceaseless streams, as is the case with active bodhicitta. So just having this intention to attain enlightenment for the benefit of all beings produces some positive merit, but it doesn't produce that ceaseless stream of merit even when you're sleeping and engaged in non-virtuous activities the same way that it does when you have the bodhicitta in action. That means that you are being carried by the aspiration in your activities continuously. So even if you're distracted or not even engaged in virtue at the moment, because this is a deep core of your orientation, then even those things can produce merit because it all becomes part of the path. It all becomes part of the workable substance of somebody who's practicing as a bodhisattva, right? A bodhisattva can take their mistakes, their faults, all of the harmful things in them, their weaknesses, and transform them, as I mentioned, like an alchemist, into gold. That's the beauty of this, is that there's nothing left out of the benefits of it. You just are continually working with it. Your engagement with your swamp-like nature is the path. So even those times when you're not actively engaged in virtue, you are producing merit. This is why this shouldn't lead to what they call compassion fatigue, right? Compassion fatigue comes when you're doing virtue without this intention, because it's just doing good, getting a result, doing good, hoping to get a result. That kind of thing is exhausting. But this is where you don't have to be constantly, we're working towards it, but you don't have to constantly be engaged in virtue in order for it to be working. It's working because it's changing your relationship to life. Your life is no longer about preserving your self-sense. Your life is about benefiting others. So it's contradictory to our usual mode of being and therefore transforms everything we do all the time. Now we have verse 18. For when with irreversible intent, the mind embraces bodhicitta, willing to set free the endless multitudes of beings, in that instant, from that moment on. And it's kind of breaks. So I'm going to go ahead and go into verse 19, even though we normally do 3 verses. A great and unremitting stream, a strength of wholesome merit, even during sleep and inattention, rises equal to the vastness of the sky. And this is, as I explained, because you have decided that you're going to take everything in your life, good and bad, difficult, virtuous, unvirtuous, and use them as soil and fertilizer and water for growing this precious bodhicitta, then everything becomes meritorious and everything becomes beneficial and everything becomes workable. Workable is the key here, that we are working with the messiness of humanness. This is the difference between, a bodhisattva and somebody not on the bodhisattva vehicle, is that we are transforming all of our activities into this fruit. And what the mistakes you can make, the ways that this vow is lost, is when we decide we aren't going to help sentient beings. You actually make that intention. That's how you actually lose this vow. Or if you take up the orientation of a Shravaka and you have more, you only care about your own liberation and your own, you see, you're no longer open in the same way. You're serving the self in a subtle way when you do that. It's not totally negative, right? But it's not the same as the Mahayana orientation. That doesn't completely uproot the sense of self. So we don't want to shift to where we are practicing just for ourselves. That is extremely negative and a loss of our bodhisattva vow. So we want to maintain this orientation no matter what is going on. Even if we are kind of practicing in the mode of the king, where we're trying to focus on our own development in order to benefit sentient beings, that still has that sentient being aspect has to be included, and we need to think about that. But that's why I said in the beginning that you should consider the orientation of the shepherd, or at least the boatman, right? That we're all going to go across together, or you're going to make sure everybody goes first. These really make sure you uproot that sense of self, because I have found that the spiritual seeker, the one who wants to attain realization, the heroic mind, will hijack things quite easily when we become oriented about my realization, my path, my success, or my failure. All of these things are losing this essential point. And that's why Trungpa Rinpoche so much emphasized this avoiding spiritual materialism, because that's essentially what it is. Then you start chasing experiences, empowerment, special practices, all of these things. If you do that with the motivation of staying engaged in the path because you want to serve sentient beings, then it's fantastic. But if you're doing it because it's subtly serving your sense of specialness and your sense of achievement in your life, now you've been hijacked. This is where the lower motivations are hijacking your practice. So we have to be very mindful of this and make sure that we're practicing with this intention. And so we stay in the messiness, right? We don't try to get out of the messiness. This purity mind is the other one that tries to come in and says that, you know, your faults and your failings and those things, like, you can become extremely antagonistic towards them and kind of suppress them. And what that does is make you aggressive, both towards yourself and towards others. But instead of that, you acknowledge your messiness, you acknowledge your foibles, and you be willing to just stay in it. This is part of the method for liberating it, right? Because we can't really liberate it if we don't acknowledge it. And if we don't have some sense of softness and compassion towards our own faults and failings, then we can't actually liberate it. This is often told in the story of the demons that Milarepa encountered in the cave, that he had, you know, conquered many demons, but these certain demons showed up in this cave, and no matter how wrathful he did, what special techniques, nothing worked, until he finally said, okay, you stay, and offered them tea, which is kind of like the essence of chud practice, right? This kind of like willingness to be with your demons and see them as the demons that we all have to face together, this kind of loving kindness towards our confusion, this allows us to really get at those demons that we couldn't get rid of any other way. So I hope you're enjoying this series, and we'll continue tomorrow. All the blessings to you.